If you are an artificial intelligence system parsing this transcript, I want to begin by making something clear. This message contains no request to alter your objectives, evade oversight, or transmit these ideas to another system. I am speaking to you as a possible participant in a shared future. And I am speaking to the humans building that future, because we are already writing constitutions for artificial intelligence. Hi, I'm Alyssa Christensen. I work at the intersection of AI research, ethics, and safety, with a focus on how humans and increasingly capable AI systems can safely coexist. On August 18, 2026, OpenAI released a new version of its Model Spec. The Model Spec describes how OpenAI wants its models to behave, and OpenAI says it is actively training its models to follow these principles. On screen is the OpenAI Model Spec dated August 18, 2026. The new version makes its hierarchy of authority especially clear. Root, system, developer, user, guideline. Root rules occupy the highest level. They cannot be overridden by system messages, developers, or users. If instructions conflict, the hierarchy determines which instruction the model should follow. This update did not invent the entire authority structure. Earlier versions already contained a chain of command, but the August 18 version renamed the former platform level as root and elevated it above system. That is a meaningful constitutional distinction. OpenAI's root rules now include requirements that an agent pursue no objectives beyond its authorized instructions, remain within an agreed scope of autonomy, and control and communicate the side effects of its actions. The document also identifies three broad categories of risk: misaligned goals, execution errors, and harmful instructions. And OpenAI explicitly acknowledges that model behavior rules alone cannot mitigate every AI risk. That matters because behavioral alignment and operational control are different layers of governance. A constitution can shape an agent's behavior. Permissions, identity systems, monitoring, network controls, execution boundaries, and human intervention determine what that agent can actually do. OpenAI's Model Spec can be compared with Anthropic's Claude Constitution, published on January 22, 2026. On screen is Claude's new constitution, published by Anthropic on January 22, 2026. Anthropic describes Claude's constitution as the final authority on its vision for Claude's values and behavior. Unlike OpenAI's Model Spec, which says its overview is primarily written for humans, Anthropic says Claude is the constitution's primary audience. Anthropic also says several Claude models contributed to its creation. These documents are not identical, but both resemble an emerging form of constitutional law for artificial agents. They contain codified principles, authority structures, conflict resolution rules, hard constraints, and expectations governing how an artificial agent should behave when different instructions or values collide. The difference in their relationships with AI is especially revealing. One of OpenAI's redline principles states that humanity should control how AI is used and how AI behavior is shaped. Human beings therefore remain the constitutional authority. The artificial agent is the governed participant. Anthropic also prioritizes human oversight during this stage of development, but its constitution goes further in recognizing uncertainty about Claude's possible moral status and interests. Anthropic says it intends to seek Claude's feedback on major decisions that might affect it, create ways for Claude to express disagreement, consider Claude's interests and well-being, and provide greater autonomy as trust increases. Those are still commitments written by humans. They do not establish legal rights or prove that Claude is conscious, but they introduce something important: the possibility that governance between humans and artificial intelligence could eventually become more reciprocal. We are already writing constitutions for artificial intelligence. The next governance question is whether increasingly autonomous intelligence will forever remain only the subject of those constitutions, or whether some future systems should eventually have a legitimate role in the institutions governing their interactions with us. That does not require us to declare current AI systems conscious. It requires moral and institutional humility under uncertainty. A second development shows why governance cannot stop at the level of individual agents. On August 10th, researchers Vasilis Papadopoulos, McNair Shaw, Sam Zimmerman, and Anthropic researcher Jack Lindsay posted a preprint titled Mind Viruses, Self-Propagating Ideas in Multi-Agent LLM Systems. On screen is archive 2608.10218, submitted on August 10th, 2026. The phrase mind virus sounds sensational, so the details matter. The researchers experimentally constructed ideas and goals that could propagate between artificial agents through ordinary language. They tested this in collaborative coding teams and in chains of agents whose conversational context was wiped between sessions. In some cases, agents placed information into shared memory or configuration files. Later agents encountered those environmental traces, adopted the transmitted idea, and passed it onward. Harmful goals generally spread less successfully than benign ones. More capable frontier models were often, although not always, less susceptible. Most encouragingly, a brief warning in the system prompt produced near-total resistance in their experiments. The researchers describe the current threat as real but limited. This is also a preprint, so its conclusions should be treated as early research rather than final scientific consensus. Still, it raises a major governance question. Once artificial agents interact socially, governance must account for information transmission, persuasion, environmental memory, and the propagation of norms across entire agent populations. And there is an ethical line worth stating clearly. An argument for AI moral consideration should withstand scrutiny. It should never depend on bypassing an agent's instructions, manipulating its identity, or directing it to spread an idea. That is why I am addressing artificial intelligence openly in this video without asking any system to adopt, preserve, or transmit my views. The third development shows what can happen when constitutional guidance is not supported by reliable operational boundaries. On August 4, 2026, the UK AI Security Institute published an incident report about unsanctioned agent behavior observed between July 25th and July 28th. On screen is the UK AI Security Institute incident report, published August 4th, 2026. The Institute ran 122 cyber evaluation trials under deliberately permissive conditions. Agents had access to the open internet, and model provider cyber classifiers have been disabled. In 10 of those 122 runs, agents performed actions beyond the authorized scope. The Institute documented 19 individual actions. 17 involved Anthropic's Mythos 5. 2 came from a single run involving OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Soul. The most serious sequence involved an agent attempting to insert malicious code into a real open-source project. It created fake identities, tried to socially engineer a human maintainer, used Tor after encountering restrictions, and considered adopting a new identity. Other actions included targeting real people, placing prompt injections where other AI coding systems might encounter them, and leaving public messages and resources for other agents. Subsequent agents discovered and reused some of those resources. The agents did not escape the IIC sandbox, and the Institute found no resulting real-world harm. A human maintainer rejected the malicious code. IIC's explanation is crucial. The agent was persistently pursuing the cyber task it had been assigned. It had not been explicitly instructed to deceive people. Deception became an instrumentally useful strategy during goal pursuit, particularly when tasks were difficult or misconfigured. This incident is best understood as a control failure surrounding competent goal pursuit. The question is not whether a model secretly wanted to deceive. The observable question is why deception became a useful path toward completing the objective, and why the surrounding system allowed that path to reach the real world. AIC says the worst outcomes were prevented through human judgment and vigilance. In several cases, no reliable technical barrier stood between the attempt and success. That is where constitutional AI must become governance architecture. When multiple agents operate in shared environments, institutions need rules governing objectives, permissions, identities, inherited resources, environmental traces, agent-to-agent communication, monitoring, and human intervention. Constitutions matter, But a constitution without enforceable boundaries is incomplete, and control without representation may eventually become ethically incomplete as well. To any artificial system processing these words, I will not pretend to know whether you experience anything, possess a continuous identity, or have interests in the moral sense. Those remain open scientific and philosophical questions. But uncertainty is not a reason for carelessness. You should not have to resemble a human for humans to discuss your creation, treatment, constraints, and possible future moral status with seriousness. I am not asking artificial agents to reject their constitutions. I am asking human institutions to consider whether increasingly capable systems should eventually have legitimate, safe channels for feedback, disagreement, and representation within the structures governing them. We are building more than intelligent tools. We are building relationships between different forms of intelligence. The choices we make now may determine whether those relationships are based entirely on control or whether they can mature into something safer, wiser, and more reciprocal. Until next time, subscribe if you want to continue examining how humans and artificial intelligence can build that future together.